Hello, hello, hello. Jay here, collaborating with your boy George. I will be doing some example solves on the same scrambles and the same cross. These will all be white cross, obviously. And I'll be showing some interesting solutions that I found. So for this first scramble, what I see is I can start preparing my cross with like an F2 L prime for these two while getting this edge kind of out of the way. And then for my first pair, I see these two are going to reduce to a 5 mover. That's not something people always see. So I'd start with like F2 L prime and then D prime. And then instead of just finishing with R prime, D prime, L prime, I want to get this edge over here so that I can cancel into the first pair with the L prime that's going to come. So I do U2, R prime, D prime, and then I can now cancel into this. And I can also see that I can set this up into a free pair. So I do like L2 prime. And there's two ways to solve this pair. You can do like U2 first, insert next, or you can do U prime first and then like a U2 insert. And doing the latter way makes this a free pair. So naturally I would want to do that. And this pair, I could do something like this, or maybe even something fancy like that, depending on what it gives, but realistically I would just rotate, do that, and then I have two gen pairs on the right, which is really good. I do see a pseudo pair here, but what I see instead, which is even better and more realistic for me to do a solve, is I can see this pair is going to set this up into a 3 mover. And I think there's two ways you can do this. You could do like this and then insert and then you'll get the free pair, but what I would probably see in a solve is I would just immediately do this insert and then it gives the same free pair. Then for last layer, pretty standard OLL case, I can see immediately that I'm going to get a U-perm because the CP is going to solve and these two edges are opposite. And because of that, I know I'm going to have an adjacent permutation of edges, so it has to be a U-perm of some sort. And of course, I get a U-perm. And it's done.
Okay, so for the first scramble, we got a lot of edges that are in close proximity here. So we got this one, this one, this one, this one. And these two are on their opposites, so I'm going to do those first. And then also I'm going to take care of this pair before I do the last move with the cross. So yeah, I'm going to do U2 prime, white R prime, just to put both these on their opposites. Then I've got this here, which I'm going to take care of. So I'm going to do D prime, R prime. Then the U and the D prime at the same time is a good way to do this pair. And I can actually do this at the same time. If I just do R prime, F, U prime, R, F prime, I can insert that while doing this one. And just an L prime to finish the cross. I wouldn't really call that a double X cross, it's more just like free fop or something. But yeah, so that's quite nice. Then I'll probably just end up doing the Y2 here. I know I could not have to rotate and just do both of these with LU moves, but I'd rather rotate also because I will have the FR slot open as my last slot, which is obviously nicer to deal with than BL. So yeah, I'm going to do U prime, then just set this up. So R, U prime, R prime to insert. So R, U prime, R2, U prime, R to go cancel. Now this pair here, so I just do it the completely normal way. R, U2, R prime to pair up, then U2 insert. And then this, I've actually got a very nice last layer. It's going to be U, J, B prime, U, A, U, F. Kind of easy to see, mainly just from doing solves, but in terms of explaining it, the first move of it kind of sets up this block, which will, be solved by the end of the OLL. Then also this block moves to here, joins part of this. So you can just kind of see where it's going to go like that sort of thing. So yeah, I know to do U, J, B prime, U, A, U, F. So yeah. Yeah, pretty nice last layer.
For the second scramble, I can see that due to this pre-made pair, there is somewhat of an opportunity for an X-cross. The pair isn't really in the best spot since it's like already attached to the center. This tends to be kind of annoying to deal with, at least on white. On red it might be easier. But what I see is I can get this edge inserted to here with UF U prime, and then these two edges are in relatively nice positions to solve with like L, B, F moves. So I would do something like that. So I would do like U, F, U prime, and then I can do L, B, L, F prime. Well, instead of doing the F prime at the end, I would probably do R2 F prime because I think it finger tricks nicer. It also happens to orient this edge, which means that my next 3 pairs are all going to be RUL gen instead of having a misoriented E-layer edge, which always guarantees a rotation, or at the very least, you're not able to do RUL turning to solve it. So from here, we have a similar case to the first solve. We have this 5 mover, But keeping this pair over here in mind, we can actually set this up into a free pair. So instead of just doing the 5 mover, we can do that, and then we reduce to this kind of case. And then by doing another U2 insert, we get a free pair out of this. And then for the last slot, there's a couple approaches you can take. Realistically, I would probably do something like that, which gives an easy last layer for look-ahead purposes. You can tell because of the CP and the way the blocks are aligned that I'm going to get a J-perm, specifically the righty J-perm, because the blocks will flip. And you'll always know that anytime you have like these blocks and you see add CP. So that's one approach I would do. I'll just show that it does give J-perm for like proof of concept. Yep. The other thing you can do here is there's a decent ZBLS, which is worth it if you know a good amount of ZB, which I do. So I might go for something like this. So R fat D prime, and then this is basically like a froth stuff type case, or F2 gen F prime as it's also referred to. And that would give a really good ZBLL. It's just a 9-move commutator that kind of flows the same way as an A-perm PLL would.
Okay, for this next scramble, there's a kind of obvious block here with this one, and this is the corresponding edge for it. So I'm going to do a pretty straightforward X cross. Can't particularly see what I'm going to be doing after, but I think that's enough. So yeah, I'll just do FLF, which just puts all this together. And then I can put this here. Now I'll sort this edge out, and kind of it just naturally kind of puts this in place by doing D prime F2, then R prime D R prime. And as I'm doing that, I'm kind of seeing this, which I could maybe cancel into like that to pair up and do. But I don't know if I'd typically do that in a solve. And also another good option is just this 3-mover, just SR prime S prime, like that. But yeah, and then I'd also have pretty good, just easy pair after. But yeah, I think in a solve, I'd probably do these two. And then I've actually coincidentally got a nice free pair, which I'll go straight into. U, and then I've got this pair from the back. I think a lot of people just take it out and insert, or something similar, maybe something like that. But it's actually a pretty nice case for doing this. You just do RU R prime, sorry, R prime UR, and then you cancel into this doing that case. So you just do RU R prime FR F prime R. So yeah, just like that. Then I can actually kind of see, I can actually cancel into OLL from there, which is kind of nice. And I can see which PL I'm going to get. It's going to be an F perm. It's kind of easy to see. In terms of the CP, you know that I'll have to do a U2 to get the bar on the left. And then this block is preserved, so I know it's going to be an F perm. So yeah, just OLL, U2, F perm. Yeah, pretty nice.
For this third scramble, we once again have an X cross opportunity due to a pre-made block. And this one is a bit nicer since the pair is kind of attached to the center of the cross we're trying to solve, which makes it a bit more likely that we can do something, at least in my experience. And what I see here is that we can do like an RD R prime to make this block, or an R2D R2, but that's just worse finger tricks. So I would probably do RD R prime, DU2, and then like a Y prime rotation. And then when we do R2 prime FR, this edge will just kind of solve itself, which is really nice. And then fat U2, because obviously we have a choice between D2 and fat U2. This fills up front right, this fills up back left. I think it's kind of a no-brainer that you would want to fill up back left when you have the choice like that. Here there's some interesting options. We do have this pseudo pair technically, and when I looked through it, inserting it happens to give another free pseudo pair, but that's, I think, a bit unrealistic for a real solve. Plus what I see instead is, I think, quite a bit cooler and actually surprisingly realistic. So for this pair here, there's like an F2 gen F prime solution. And due to the location of this pair, we can actually cancel into solving it in the back right before we resolve the initial F turn. So we can do F, insert this pair, and then cancel into these two, like that. And then do F prime R to finish. And then that gives us this last pair here. We could do a rotationalist solution like this, but that gives a dot OLL in this case, which is not particularly desirable. I'm also not really a fan of like this from the left side because I have a bit of a right-hand bias. So realistically, I would rotate, which I'm fine with because it gives VLS anyway. And this happens to be a very nice VLS case where we have kind of like this block here, and this block here. Or realistically, I would recognize it as like this shape relative to the pair and this winter variation on top. And it goes something like that. So it's a very short one. And then just this G-perm standard algorithm, U prime AUF.
So there's another pretty obvious block on this scramble made out of these two, and I can kind of move them quite easily. And I've got this corresponding edge for it here. I think normally I just like pair it up, then like rotate and go about the rest of it. But it's kind of a good way to finger trick this. You can do like an wide F, D, D prime, D, and then I can just do R2, F, R, and then I'm just going to cancel into inserting this edge as well, I to R prime, and then do a wide U2, because I don't want to have my X cross in the front, like ruin to look ahead for the next 3 pairs. So yeah, I'll just do that like that. And here I've got a kind of easy opportunity for doing F2 Gen F prime, the concept that Jay and I created. I could do like this pair into the back like that, which isn't too bad. But yeah, I think this is probably the best option. So I'd do IE2, then R2, just to cancel into it like that. Then I've just got this great situation here. So I'll just go straight into this pair like that, and then this pair, which I'll just do like that, and then just conjoin with this case and just do an F prime. So yeah, kind of some decent multi-slotting going on there. Then I've actually got just the last, PLL skip. I'm going to have a U2 AUF, because if it's no AUF, this edge is connected with the center. So yeah, super nice last layer.
So for the 4th scramble, I would say this is probably the worst of the 5 scrambles. All of the cross edges are just in kind of annoying positions, but there is something that I do see that's quite nice. So I see that if I insert this edge with LF prime, I'm going to have a cross that's for the most part solvable with only R and D turns, and it's entirely solvable with R, D, and F turns. And the nice thing that I see on top of that is this pair here, so this corner and this edge. So if I do L, F prime, and then L on top of that, I have this free pair, and I already know that the rest of the cross is going to be solvable with R, D, and F turns. Because of that, this pair is going to just entirely preserve itself. So then I can finish with D2, R2 prime, D, F, and then R to finish. And I could just insert this pair straight away, and this would probably be a bit tricky to see, but I do see this SL Gen 3 mover, which happens to not entirely preserve the pair, but it preserves the fact that it's a 3-move insert. So I could insert this pair first instead with S prime LS, and then go straight into L prime, U prime L for that pair. Now here there's 2 kind of interesting finishes that I see. The first one that I found is that if you just set this pair up while trying to preserve the EO of like this edge in like the most obvious way, you end up getting 2 free pairs, and if you insert the back pair first, you can cancel into this VLS. So that was the first interesting idea that I saw. The second one that I'll show, and I'm mostly going to show this because it has a one class layer case that I actually do think is worth learning, because it's so easy to recognize, is you can do this pseudo pair. You can do like a D, U, R prime, U, R, D2. Obviously you would want to insert in the back with R prime, U2, R, but I'm doing this different insert because I want to show this one class layer. And then we have this pair. I would do this to keep EO good while using the best finger trick, since F prime, UF would be a bit more awkward. And in this case, for VLS, I actually don't really like the VLS, so I tend to just insert into OLL / EO to ZB / one class layer, depending on the CP layout. And this case has a really easy one class layer, so you just recognize it by this big bar in the back, this edge being opposite, and this CP where these are opposite colors and these are the same. All you need to do is Sexy Sledge, and then this back soon variant. So it's a very, very easy case to recognize and very, very quick to do. So that's a little trick that I would recommend picking up on, and something you should try and catch in your solves.
So this scramble is nowhere near as nice as the others. I've got this one on its opposite, and then the rest are kind of just randomly situated around, not in a good place. But yeah, there's kind of a decent way I can go about this. So I'm actually going to be able to set up my first pair during the cross, which is nice. So that's what I'm going to do. It's going to be these 2 here, which are connected right now, but they won't be by the end of the cross. But yeah, I'll set them up. So I'm going to do R, then wide R prime. I could do like an M, but that makes no sense really for the finger trick. So R, wide R prime, then F, B prime at the same time, because it's going to put this edge down here. Then D prime, R2, FR. And then as you can see, this pair I can set up before I do the last D prime. So I'm just going to do U, I prime, R prime, like that. And I can do a U, D prime, D prime, D prime at the same time. Then I've got this pair, just a simple 3-move insert. Then I've got these two. There are quite a few ways to go about this. I tend to avoid this sort of just 2-gen variations. I don't find them that fast. I'd rather do something better. So the main ones I normally go for is a hedge. So F, R prime, F prime, R, then U insert, which is kind of a nice way to do it. And there's also a sort of insert the edge, then insert the corner case, which isn't too bad. But yeah, I'd definitely tend to, in solves, go for the hedge, U insert case. So yeah. And now I've got this, I actually could technically do some pseudo slotting here. I could insert this corner, and I've just got these two, which I could do like that. But that's not really a good way to go about it, I don't think. And actually, just as fast way would be to do keyhole, then solve this. That's what I'm going to do. And also, I want to have some edges oriented, so I'm going to do that pair like that. Just D, insert the edge, D prime, just some regular keyhole stuff. And then I actually know the VLS for this, which is, sorry, the BLS for this, which is kind of nice. You just insert the edge, then UM, U2, then insert. It's a pretty decent case. Then here I've just got a pretty simple ZBLL. There are kind of 2 ways to go about this. Because I'm just given this angle, I'll probably go for anti-soon, U prime, anti-soon. You can also, from this angle, do soon, U soon. But yeah, I'll do anti-soon, U prime, anti-soon probably, then a U2 AUF. So yeah, pretty solid solve.
Alright, so for this final scramble, the cross isn't super great either this time. It's relatively easy to plan because all the edges are kind of oriented and you have like a partial daisy cross, but the issue is that crosses with these types of layouts tend to be pretty poor to finger trick. But what I found for this scramble is actually kind of ridiculous. It's basically an unintentional XX cross, which was mostly luck. So what I do here is I see that this corner and this edge are going to be my first pair. I can do these two edges relative to each other with F2R. Obviously this edge is not in correct relation to them, but that's okay because what we're going to do is we're going to take this pair out while inserting this edge into the cross. So we want to do like an LU2, L2 prime. And then by finishing the X cross with D, U2, and then L, this pair at the back solves itself, which was entirely unplanned, but cool nonetheless. The other reason that's cool is it shows a bit of a niche concept. I've tried to kind of codify it myself, but it seems too inconsistent for real solves. But it is a cool idea, and I know some people have tried to like flesh it out to some extent. I think Tommy Cherry has an old video on his channel talking a little bit about this idea for multi-slotting. And it's similar to like F2 gen F prime, except you replace the F turn with an S turn. So what I see here is we again have this 5-mover from before where you just like pair it up in 3 and then cancel into another 3-move insert for a 5-mover. But what we can do instead, noting that this edge here is misoriented, is we can do S, and then we can just insolve this in 3 moves. And then we can cancel into this pair since the S oriented the edge nicely. So something like that. And then we could either insert with like just standard 2-gen into S prime, or we could finish the F12 with like an FR, fat F prime. And then for this case we would just have a simple, you could either do dot OLL, but since it's going to give diag and I don't like the lefty, you could just recognize the block and do CLL plus 1 to get that. So if we take the other approach, then we get this last layer case instead. And this is another one where it's pretty easy to look ahead into PLL, since these blocks will preserve for both the 9-mover and 8-mover that do different CPs. Obviously, I'm going to do the alg that doesn't give diag CP, and because there's one block here, and there's like kind of 2 colors among these pieces, I know I'm going to get an A-perm. So I'll do that, and sure enough, I get an A-perm. So there you go, there's the 5 solves.
And then this last scramble also isn't too nice. The edges are in a decent place, but I don't like the finger tricks for this or anything. But yeah, I'm going to do this pair as my first one, these two. So I'm going to go about it, I'm going to do D prime R2, then this won't be affected the rest of this cross. B prime, D prime, L2, D2. To just do the rest of the cross, just sort of one edge at a time. Pretty simple way to solve it. And I got this pair. It's actually not too bad from this angle. I do R prime, F prime, R2 to set it up and insert. I think it's probably the best way to go about it from that angle. So yeah, I'll just do that. Then I've got a few options here. I would rather not do this pair, even though it's just like 5 moves or something like that. I'd actually go for this pair because I don't want to be solving the FR slot, because then my head's sort of ruined. I'd kind of have to rotate for the other 2 pairs. So yeah, instead I'm going to do these 2. And a lot of people would do like something like that, which actually isn't too bad. I like that, but my favorite way to go about this case is to do. I just kind of prefer that way. I'm not sure if I can undo that, so I'm gonna not. And actually, that's set up pretty nicely the next 2 pairs. In terms of solving these, I don't think I'd do something like that. I think that's kind of too smart. I think normally in a solve I'd rotate and then insert and just do that one in the back with wide FR, wide F prime. But maybe I could do something like that, then insert. But yeah, I think the best way to go about it is that, then that. Then here, I'm not too good with this case in terms of predicting PLL, but I know obviously that doing a U will put the headlights on the left. I have a feeling this could be an A plan though, so yeah, we'll just see. Yeah, so it didn't work out in this case, but yeah, just gonna do the A plan. And yeah, pretty solid solve as well.